Record. Well, good day, everybody. This is my name is Craig Blanchett, and this is the Crave Optimal Health podcast. If you're listening to this on podcast, for those of you that have joined us live, you can actually Google search now Crave Optimal Health podcast, and you'll be able to find the link right to it. Or you can go directly to iTunes and type in Crave Optimal Health. But we're doing a lot of different things. I'm going to do a lot of fresh and kind of interesting things on the podcast. But right now and for the next, 25 weeks, at least once a week, we are going to be having a chapter review in Dr. A's Habits of Health. It's a book of healthy habits. And this week is actually chapter 5, and we've got Daniela Carulli. She's going to actually be walking us through that. But if you're listening to this on podcast and you want to join us for the live broadcast, you can tune in 9 a.m. Friday mornings. That's Pacific West Coast time for us out here on the left coast. And what you do is go to Zoom. Actually, you can go to craveoptimalhealth.zoom.us. And at the top there, it says join a meeting. And the meeting ID, are you ready for it? Is 503-974-1671. So whether you're listening live and want to listen later on podcast, or whether you are listening on podcast and want to join us live, either way, we're glad you're here. So I want to introduce Daniela. Daniela's on our health coaching team. She's one of our favorite coaches. You're all my favorite, really. But Daniela's going to be walking us through chapter 5 in the Habits of Health this morning. And so welcome, Daniela. I unmuted you. There you go.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. So first of all, I just, a couple things. Happy to be here about this chapter, and I'll share with you why. But I also want you to know I have a toddler running around, so if I appear to be distracted momentarily, that would be why. So this chapter, when I looked on the listing of what was left to share on, this chapter was there, and I knew it was going to be coming up quickly. And I found myself thinking, oh, I should do that chapter. And so this was a huge experience for me, because I had to ask myself, why do I feel like I should? And I felt like I should because there's medical involvement with this chapter. But I wasn't really excited about it, and that was kind of weird to me. So I had to think about, what was my deal with that? And what I realized is I need to ask myself a different question. And my mentors can appreciate this, I think. So I asked myself the question, well, if I were going to be excited about it, what would that look like? And so this is what it looks like. So I hope I can bring you along in the excitement as well, because I do think this chapter at first glance can be like, oh yeah, it's the health assessment, right? And we just kind of breeze past it maybe. But I had something highlighted from when I very first read this chapter. And what I had highlighted was that eating more calories than you use leads to weight gain. High glycemic foods overwork your pancreas, and foods that stimulate inflammation, such as saturated fats, create chaos throughout your body. Now, when I read this the first time, what I heard was will cause weight gain, right? That's what I heard. This time, what I heard was chaos. And what I heard was, oh my gosh, what's going on inside that I haven't maybe paid attention to enough. And so that's what I realized this chapter is really about, is what's going on inside of our body and where's the chaos, and how really simple it is to undo that chaos. So in each of the sections of the health assessment, it matches very well, actually, our well-being survey. I don't know how many of you have noticed that, but it correlates very closely. And so it caused me to kind of wander away from the health assessment and use the health survey more. But as I went through this chapter, and maybe as you come through it with me, you'll see this too. As I went through this chapter again, I realized, no, there is something very different actually between the well-being survey and the well-being assessment, because the well-being assessment starts with current reality, whereas the well-being eval starts with where do I think I am, right? And those two are very useful. The differences are very useful to us as individuals and to us as coaches as well, to understand what is different about the two of them. So when we're talking about current reality, we're talking about what is actually fact for the most part, even though there's some questions in here that, I mean, somebody could not tell the truth about, right, for sure, and it would skew this health assessment. But if they're going to begin with the concept of factual, what is actually happening in my life right now, then this one is going to be much more based on fact. But they're also going to run up against a part in the assessment that does talk about actual hard facts from the doctor, or your weight, or your measurements, or those kinds of things. Excuse me, I'm getting asked to pick up. All right. So, hello.
There's some current reality. I love it.
There you go. Current reality right here. And so what I did is I went through and I reflected on that first initial statement that if it's about reducing chaos in our bodies, that's how I first approached it. But then as I was going through the different parts of the health assessment, such as the inner you section, that's about our stress levels, our jobs, things like that. And I started realizing it's not just about chaos inside of our physical body. It's about chaos inside of our mind as well, and what that looks like. Thank you, Craig.
Mm-hmm.
And so, taking a good look at this section in particular, it might even be a good place to remind the people that we might be working with, or even ourselves, to really spend some honest time with this section, because if we're doing really well physically, so we don't have chaos maybe in terms of blood levels and things like that, but we've got chaos going on in the mind, the other will follow, because they are connected. He thinks he's on the phone with you guys because he's got a little it's cute. So then what that kind of brought me to also was that we need to be very, very aware as people of all of the things that we do in our life, which I know we talk a lot about, that conscious living and really paying attention to where we are. And this chapter is an introduction of that, really. It's an introduction of conscious living. And so I wanted to kind of go through a little bit, just because I do have a little bit of an in with the medical part of it, to see if I could share some things with you guys that you may or may not know.
Hey, tell us, Daniela, tell us what that means for some of us that don't know you well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. So my husband and I own Carulli Medical Clinic, and my husband is an internal medicine practitioner. And we have been able to implement actually tremendous change in our patient population, utilizing a wide variety of things that we have gained by being part of this community.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, for those of you that may not know, Nick and Daniela are going to be two of the highlighted speakers at the Health Talks event that's Saturday, which is tomorrow at 9 a.m. So that's going to be exciting to see you both up there. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a little plug there.
Thank you. So, so I hope you're all there. So anyway, so taking a look at the section that has to do with the inside operations of the body, if you will. One of the things that comes up over and over again is from our patients is I don't get this thing about the sugar levels, or I don't get this thing about cholesterol. And so I'm not going to get in really deep. And so I'm also going to kind of pause and say that sometimes people think because I'm married to a physician, I know exactly what he knows, and I don't. Right? I've learned a lot over the years, and I've created presentations with him and that sort of thing. And so there are things that I have learned. And so I'm just going to kind of qualify that, because if you have some questions, I may be able to answer some, but others I may have to get back to you on the answer with. So the first thing is the cholesterol, that I think really has people sort of wondering, what exactly does that do? And there are the two types of cholesterols, right? There's the LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, and then there's the HDL, which is the good cholesterol. And I'm going to show you a little picture here, actually. Oops, I think it's going to bring the wrong one up first, but that's okay. I can hopefully fix that. So, okay. So if you look at this, can you guys all see this?
Yep.
Okay. So this is a picture that I found for my husband when he was doing a talk at our office. And if you look at so there's three different views of an artery, essentially. So if you look at the top one, this one right here, this is the one where everything is operating well. It's clear, the blood platelets are running through, there's no problem. And the one down here, the middle one, you can see a pocket building up there, right in here. Okay, and that's cholesterol, and it actually doesn't go into the artery directly. It goes into the lining, and so what happens is you start to get this lump in the lining, right? And you can see that up here now it's going to kind of make it a little harder for that nice steady flow of blood to go through. And so the risk begins, right, in terms of if the blood's not moving through as quickly, the oxygen isn't moving through our body as well. And then we start getting all kinds of other little things that can happen that seem little to us as the person that might have this inside. But from a physician's perspective, they start seeing lots of other changes that go along with this that have to do with the heart a lot, and but also just our drainage system in general. So if you look down at the bottom one, the third one down there, what do you need, baby? If you look at the third one down here, you can see what's happened is there's been so much buildup that it's caused a pressure in the lining of the artery, and it's broken. Okay, the lining of the artery has now broken, and so it's leaking out here, and now it's causing clottage to happen, essentially, and blockage to happen. And so, wow, Craig, you're good with that. So when that happens, I had asked my husband actually just yesterday, I said, so explain to me what happens when this gets clotted, and, you know, is that a heart attack, or what are we talking about? And he said, well, if it's at the heart, I'll stop this for a minute. He said, well, if it's at the heart, it can be a heart attack for sure. He said, if it's in the neck, it can be a stroke. He said, if it's in a limb, it can cause loss of a limb ultimately. So it really does wreak havoc with our bodies when that cholesterol builds up. And so hopefully that gives people a better picture and understanding. I think people often think it's more a part of the artery itself, but it's really the lining that gets disturbed. And then the second big question that people tend to have is on the glucose and the sugar within the body. So let me take you to a little picture of the pancreas here, and kind of help a little bit to understand how that will look. Let's see. I'm sorry, I am one-handed here, so I'm going to see if I can get us back to, I think I have to hit end show. Yep. Okay. There we go. Is that one showing up for everybody? Okay, awesome. So the pancreas, as it says here, is a gland that's deep within the abdomen, and it has two main functions. It aids in digestion, and it also regulates metabolism. So when it's working well, it can actually break down proteins, carbohydrates, and fats pretty well. When it's working well, it also secretes insulin for our body. So some of you may have heard, oh, you know, I have a friend that has diabetes and they require insulin. And so that's because their pancreas has quit supplying the proper amount that's necessary to keep the glucose or sugar levels lower in their body. They get up too high. And when they're up too high, there's huge amounts of risk with that. Everything from, you can have gout, you can have heart issues, you can have all sorts of other inflammation responses that happen in the body. You can have, you can actually die, right? If your glucose is uncontrolled and it just goes up too high, you have a heart attack and die. Your body just can't deal with that.
If it goes too low too, is that an issue?
Oh, absolutely. And that was something I was going to talk about too, is that, you know, too low is a problem too. And really the greatest regulator, as I think a lot of us know, for either too high or too low, and talk about this a little bit tomorrow as well, is the way we eat, right? How often we're eating, the amounts we're eating, and the types of food that we're eating. So, but what I was really hoping to share today is that the really cool thing about the pancreas and so many organs in our body is if we treat it well, it can recover, right? That's the really cool part. So even though some people will come to us and say, oh, I think my hormones are out of whack, or I think my metabolism's out of whack. Well, they're probably not too far off in the sense that probably is if they've been overloading their pancreas too much, because when it gets to a point of repeated insult over and over again, it sort of just gives up the ghost. Like, what's the use of, you know, working this hard? I don't have that amount of insulin to ever put out, no matter how hard I try. And so it just starts to shut down. And when people tell us that, you know, it's hormones or it's that, well, they're kind of right in a way, because their pancreas is no longer regulating those hormones. It's no longer taking care of the insulin levels. It's no longer helping to regulate their metabolism. So, so they're not far from the truth, even though it also can sound like an excuse that way, right? Like my hormones are, you know, I'm 50, my hormones are going crazy, and that's why. Well, it's probably a little bit to do with being 50, but a lot more to do with how we're treating our body and the results in our pancreas. So let's see. One of the things, so first of all, were there any questions that maybe I can help with in terms of cholesterol or diabetes that I haven't covered, or I can get answers for you?
The chat window's been going great. We love the visuals, love the understanding. I never realized that the cholesterol buildup was kind of protected in that lining. I just thought it was inside. It was either in the tube or out of the tube, not in the tube wall. And so that's just such a simple visual. And also, I love how you're connecting the fact that the habits of health system that we use and the ways that we choose to eat. We all think that's about weight loss. If I eat this, I gain weight. If I eat that, I don't gain weight. But there's so much more going on. And if we eat for internal health, not just to look good in the reflection, you know, because you can eat high glycemic foods and not gain a lot of weight, but you're still going to be doing that kind of damage inside your bodies. And so I just love how you connected all that together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that is hard to separate a little bit is that we see the results in weight gain, right? But by the time we see the results in weight gain, there's already been chaos going on inside of our body. So it's kind of a delayed, response. It's your body saying, "Whew, wake up, can you see me now?" Yeah. So one of the things also, just in closing, that I discovered, or maybe I didn't notice before, is that when we're finished with the health assessment, whether it's, we're doing it ourselves, or we're having a client do it and we're talking with them about it, I know that I have often said to clients, that it's great to know the current reality and the starting point, and that's all it is a starting point. But what I didn't realize is that on page 52, if we can direct our clients to page 52 and 53 after they've done the health assessment, what it shares there is that there is tremendous hope. Because what it says is that our body has the ability to completely reverse the effects of current choices. That effect does weaken with age, but the body is made up of entirely new cells every 12 months. Oh my gosh, you guys! Every 12 months, entirely new cells. So the choices that we're making now, it's not like we're waiting 10 years to see something amazing happen. Amazing things are happening every day, because at the end of just 12 months, all those amazing choices add up to less chaos inside the physical body. And of course, if we're not making amazing choices, then, also in 12 months, it undoes anything we may have done before. So, but I just really liked what happens on page 52, because there was something that struck me. Let me see if I can grab it real quick. What does it say to...
Where do we go from here?
Yes, thank you. I was trying to remember that. Thank you, Craig.
Mm-hmm.
It says, where do we go from here? And isn't that the question that is really, really important? Right? We have this, we see our chaos, or we see, where we're at right now, but it's where do we go from here? And I really think that section gives a lot of hope. And so I know for me, I'm going to be directing my new clients to just take a look at that page and a half. So
Thank you, Daniela. I had a comment. Well, thank you for the presentation. It was spectacular. We got a lot out of it. I love that I can read this chapter and I get a certain amount out of it. But when I read it through your eyes, it's a whole different chapter, right? And so I love doing this. For those of you that are coaches listening to this, I want to encourage you to use this podcast to add some flavor to your coaching. When someone's reading a chapter, you can send them the whatever chapter podcast. We're going to have 26 of them, all 26 here shortly. But the other thing that I noticed too is that even though I can take the well-being assessment online, so we have a well-being assessment, which is here. This is the health assessment, but this health assessment doesn't have all the other kind of stuff to it. It's just sort of the easy assessment, and then the well-being evaluation has just is more subjective. You kind of rate yourself. And so they're very different assessments, but not skipping over the chapter because I don't want to do the math. Or you can take the test maybe online and then you can read the rest of the stuff in the chapter. It's just great awareness. Thank you. Kim, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Daniela as well, because boy, Daniela, you had me right from the very beginning, because I've looked at the dates to sign up and I thought, oh, I know what chapters I want to talk about because they're my favorite ones. And of course, those were already taken. And so I'm really glad that you decided to take this chapter anyway. And then as far as just commenting on some of the things that you said, I love that you brought out the word chaos, because I think, boy, even having been on this journey for several years now, I still, my mind wants to go back to that diet mentality. I think because I have so many years under my belt thinking that way. And I think this is one of the benefits of being in this group, is just kind of getting reminded of that. And I love that you ended with that vision of hope, because it's where do we go from here? And I think sometimes it's pretty encouraging to know that not only can we change our bodies from the inside out, but we can also change our minds too. And I've been thinking about how my identity, I've all these identities. I have an identity that I worry, and I've been working on changing that over time. And so it's just really encouraging to know that we can take these diet visions and turn them into health. But as I find myself worrying and trying to change that, saying, no, I'm deciding not to worry, even though that's my tendency. This group helps me to say, no, I decided this is not a diet. This is about health. And so that really helps me, because a lot of times my mind goes back there and I have to remind myself, nope, I'm not going to go there. So.
Thanks, Kim. That's great. Yeah. The one thing, we can change our minds and we can change our bodies. We can change our taste palette. We can grow to like things we maybe don't like at first. There's so many things that are changeable. There's some things that are not changeable, right? But there's plenty of things that are. And I know I change my mind all the time. Sometimes my mind changes when I don't want it to, and I have to work at changing it back to the things that I know are true. Anybody else have a comment here as we get close to closing up the podcast? Yeah, Eileen, I'll unmute you. And then Linda.
I'll go after. Perfect.
Go ahead, Eileen.
What resonated with me, that was a wonderful presentation, Daniela. And I think we all should, we're coaches, we should probably encourage all our clients to see this, today's video. But what resonated with me is when she said something like, if I can find it on my notes here, basically it was saying, our bodies will show our fatness. I'm just rewording it. And we may see our fatness or how we've grown, but the internal has already taken place. So it's a kind of a revelation of what's already been going on the inside of us.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Eileen. Linda, you're up. I'll unmute you.
Are we good?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Awesome. Daniela, I don't think I've ever really read this chapter. So just how Kimmer's put it, your excitement for it. I actually grabbed the book and I opened it up and I got a highlighter out, which is a good thing, right? Because I know Craig and Alex are always encouraging us to not just be passive listeners, but active participants. And I'm really excited and encouraged because I had a long conversation with a coach on our team about how do we help people transition. We're really good at getting them started on program. How do I help them move forward from that? And this kind of information right here, or these short videos that we have, or this stuff that I'm learning, are things that I can layer into my service to the people that I'm working with. So I feel really encouraged. And I really like that statement of our weight gain is kind of after the ship has started to sink almost, rather than, I guess I have stuff going on underneath the surface. So it was just, my brain's really excited about what I can do with this. So thank you for your preparation in those slides. It was super helpful.
So one of the things I just saw in the chat window was somebody said, that the problem isn't just for obese people. And that's absolutely true, right? So their body may not have thrown the exterior physical warning out, but they still have the chaos inside. So, there does need to be balance. I guess we can be blessed if we've seen that on the outside so that it does get us maybe moved into action. But I would say that most of the time, the majority of time that we've seen, when it is somebody that does not appear to be overweight or obese, they still are, in the sense that of how they're feeding their body and how they're moving through the world. And that if you see them without clothing on, you'll still see the fat there. It may not look like it looks on some of us at certain times, but that's just what we've seen, within our practice, because lean and healthy looks really different than just skinny, right? Or, not having a huge roll hanging over or something like that. So actually, if you come tomorrow, there's going to be a great story from a young man regarding being actually extra fit and lean, but still having some issues. So
well, and Daniela, thanks for that. I know some triathletes, if the triathlete works out a lot, so they burn a ton of calories, so they can kind of eat anything they want and not gain weight, but they can't eat anything they want if they want the internal plumbing to be healthy too. And I've seen these triathletes who are fit and they have heart attacks. Like, what? It's like, because they can eat anything, because all they're thinking is calories, they do eat anything. And it just, you put bad gas in a nice sports car and it starts to rot the plumbing, right? And then something blows, and that's what happens there. We got time for one more. Jennifer had her hand raised.
I was going to add something, Craig, if I could, but go ahead.
Jennifer, I've unmuted you there.
Hello. Thank you, Daniela. That was a great presentation. I actually just went through that chapter last week, and I'm a dork. I got my notebook out. I wrote all the answers down and totaled up all my totals, because that's just my personality. But anyhow, I had a question about the cholesterol. My father-in-law's had several heart attacks and a stroke, so I've read lots of different things about it. And one of the things was that the bad cholesterol is actually attempting to fix weak arterial walls, like in your arteries. And so I'm just curious maybe what you or your husband has to say about that, that maybe getting, like, the bad cholesterol is actually a sign that the artery walls are weak, and the bad cholesterol is trying to strengthen up those walls, or basically put, Bondo on your arteries and keep a hole from breaking through. And obviously, the more it keeps doing that, then good cholesterol or your blood can't get through. But obviously fixing your diet's going to help hopefully strengthen your arteries, and you'll not need to fix the arteries as much. Does that make any sense?
So it does in a way. So from my understanding of it, and I will get clarification, but from my understanding of it, it's the good cholesterol that pulls the bad cholesterol out, right? It's trying to do, and you're right, anything that happens from our body that is inflammation of any kind, and cholesterol is just another form of inflammation, is the body's effort to protect itself. Right. But
right.
When the effort goes into spin, into chaos, right, like what happens with cancer and so many other things, it's the body's like overreacting. It's in panic mode, and it duplicates and it starts to go crazy. That's when any of our self-repair mechanisms go awry. Am I addressing what you're asking?
Yeah. No, I just wanted to. I guess from a different idea of what bad cholesterol could actually be. Your body's actually sending it in to try and fix something.
Yeah, well, I think the bad cholesterol is also weakening the artery walls. So, bad cholesterol makes those deposits, and when it's making those deposits, yes, it is trying to protect something in effect, but the bad cholesterol is actually causing more damage. So any response, for example, when our pancreas shuts down, the reason why it's shutting down is it cannot work that hard anymore without sacrificing some other organs in the process. So it starts to withdraw in an effort to protect other organs. So there's always that that give and take of the body, where if you put me in this corner, I will do what I can to survive, but I'm limited with my choices.
Right. I'm just thinking if people are only interested in limiting cholesterol but not in fixing their diet, they're missing the whole point, right? Like the cholesterol is actually beneficial, but
cholesterol, the HDL is beneficial. Excuse me.
Yeah. What I propose for the sake of time is to back away from this a little bit, and let's all go and do some research. Let's all go and actually look into it, because this has sparked an amazing conversation and curiosity, right? That's what I say we do, because there's a lot. I've researched this for over a year back in the past, and there's some new information, and I could just sit here and just go all crazy on you, but I'd love to see what you guys come up with and post that in the Optimal Health Coach or on your support pages.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. That was excellent. First of all, thanks everyone who participated. Thank you for the preparation, Daniela. I love how together we are so much better than any one of us by ourselves. So thank you for that. We're going to close up the podcast today, and so next week we're going to be looking forward to chapter 6, and so we're excited about that. We also have the health talks. So February 4th at 9 a.m. Pacific, we're going to be at the Water Resource Center in Vancouver, Washington. And if you want to tune in online, that will be zoom.us. And then the meeting ID is 503-974-1671. So thanks everyone for all your participation today, and closing up chapter 5, Dr. A's Habits of Health.